Okay, good evening, folks. The YouTube is now running, so I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. And so we're going to start with our land acknowledgement. I acknowledge the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. Just in time, Councillor Mancini. So next up, approval of the minutes from March 7th.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Councillor Hensby, second by Councillor Purdy, maybe? Oh, yeah. All in favor? Aye. Minutes are approved. Approval of the order of business, additions and deletions. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have no requests for additions or deletions, but we do have a request for a deferral for item 11.3.1 nominations, nominating the Shubenacadie Waterway to the Canadian Heritage River System Program. The presenters for that item have just requested that item be deferred to the May meeting due to the weather tonight.
Well, we look forward to hearing from them in May. Anything from council? Nothing. Would someone like to move the amended order of business? Moved by Councillor Purdy, second by Councillor Mancini. All in favor? Aye. Aye. That is so approved. Next up, any conflicts of interest? Oh, well, I guess it's business arising out of the minutes, which there is none. So any going to number 5, declaration of conflict of interest. Any conflicts to declare tonight, colleagues? Seeing none, we have no motions of reconsideration. There are no motions of rescission. We have no deferred business. We have no tabled matters. That brings us to 10.1.1, the development agreement public hearing for Highway 7 out at Hedge-Jador. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight for our first public hearing. The process will start with our staff presenting, and then we'll get questions of clarification from staff, and then the applicant will have an opportunity to present. And after that, we'll open up the floor to the public. Speakers can participate for a maximum of 5 minutes. We request that you keep your comments respectful, on topic, and directed to the chair. The clerk will hold up a yellow sign when you have 30 seconds left, and that will be followed by the red sign when your time is up. Very high tech here. And after that, council will vote. So we'll take it away with our staff presentation on this one.
All right. So good evening, everyone. My name is Alison DeBroda. I'm a planner with the Rural Policy and Planning Applications team, and I'm here tonight to present the staff presentation for case 2023-00728, which is a development agreement application for a new grocery store in the Hedge-Jador. So the proposed development is an application by WSP on behalf of the property owner. It's located on Highway 7 in the Hedge-Jador. It's for a new commercial building, which would be a grocery store, and this is through a development agreement. To provide some site context, the general site location is shown in red on the left, in between Austria Lake Road and West Jador Road on Highway 7. And on the right, you can see the site boundary shown in red, showing the existing building near the street frontage there on Highway 7. This slide shows some neighborhood context of the site. So on the left, we have a view of the existing commercial strip mall from the site of the new grocery store. And on the right, we have kind of facing the opposite direction towards the east, where the proposed grocery store is proposed to be located. So to provide a brief overview of the planning policy, first, we have the regional plan and the subdivision bylaw, which guide where population growth and the investment of services like transit, piped water, and sewer should occur. Next, we have the community plan, which outlines where, how, and which types of development may occur. Some of these uses can only be allowed after community consultation and council approval, which is what we're here tonight for. And then we have the land use bylaw, which specifies what can be approved through permits without going to council and seeking community engagement. So on screen shows the development agreement process. First, we receive a complete application. We review it and conduct public engagement and draft a staff report. In this case, that report was given first reading last meeting on March 7th. Tonight, we're here for a public hearing. And after the decision of council tonight, there will be a 14-day appeal period where the decision is appealable to the Utility and Review Board. And the grounds for the decision is that the decision is not consistent with the municipal planning strategy. Grounds for the appeal, rather. And so to provide some planning overview of the site, it is in an unserviced area, so there would be on-site septic and water. We are in a mixed-use zone in the Eastern Shore West Land Use Bylaw and a mixed-use designation in the Eastern Shore West Municipal Planning Strategy. The existing use is a commercial strip mall, which will remain, and the enabling policy is MU7. So this policy enables council to consider proposals for a development agreement for commercial uses that exceed 5,000 square feet in floor area, which is the maximum floor area permitted in the MU zone. So in this case, the use of grocery store is permitted in the zone, but the proposed size would be too large than what would be permitted in the underlying zone. So to consider larger commercial uses, there's a number of policy criteria outlined in policy MU7. These criteria are on the left of this table. So first is that the design and the scale of the building is compatible with nearby uses. To meet that, the proposed building is smaller in scale than the existing building, and the community has a range of uses which this proposed use is compatible with. We also reviewed impact on the impact of the traffic on the road network. So the traffic impact study has confirmed that the road network is sufficient with the addition of turning lanes, which would be installed by the developer to accommodate the future impact. The lot must be able to be adequately serviced. So the proposed servicing plan that we have is signed by a professional engineer, which demonstrates that it meets the Nova Scotia Environment on-site sewage disposal regulations. We also reviewed the overall design of the site, including things like landscaping, refuse areas, and signage. We do have a landscaping plan. We also have designated refuse areas, and no new signage is proposed beyond a fascia sign on the new building. And then we look at overall site suitability. So in this case, there is a delineated wetland on the property, which this development does not encroach into. The proposed lot coverage is only 1.1%, and the development makes sufficient use of the existing on-site infrastructure, in this case, the accesses. So this is the site plan. It's a little small from here, but I think the applicant will also go into detail. But on the left in the light gray, you can see the existing strip mall. And on the right in the darker gray, we have the proposed grocery store. The two existing accesses on Highway 7 will remain. And we have a new parking area kind of to the right in front of the new grocery store. So key details of the proposal you can see on the right here. A zoomed in image of the new grocery store. It would be a new commercial building, which would be permitted up to 16,000 square feet. There would be new landscaping and, again, a new parking area. Currently, the proposal is at 111 parking spaces, addition to what's already there. And so for public engagement, we did a consultation, which was achieved through a mail-out notification and an open house, which we held on August 10th, 2023. We mailed out 226 notifications, received one individual phone call, 279 people viewed the website, and we had 37 people attend the open house. So feedback through the public engagement included a concern about stormwater management, general comments regarding the traffic flow and the accesses, and we also received positive comments about the proposal regarding the need for the community for the larger grocery store. In terms of the development agreement itself, it will allow for the new building in addition to the existing strip mall on the site. It will allow for a maximum footprint of 16,000 square feet for the new commercial building, and it also enables a 10% increase permitted by the development officer at the permitting stage if required. It requires the parking areas to be hard surfaced and set back 8 feet from side lot lines. Again, landscaping will be provided as per the agreement, and there's also a requirement for mechanical equipment to be screened from neighboring residential properties. So a non-substantive amendment is a change to the agreement which can be made without a formal public hearing. This could be done either through the development officer or community council. And in this agreement, these include changes to the building footprint up to 20,000 square feet, so a little bit extra if it was required, changes to the landscaping and signage requirements, and an extension to the date of commencement or completion of development. So staff recommend that Harbour East Marine Drive Community Council approve the proposed development agreement as set out in attachment A of the staff report dated January 17th, 2024. And this was arrived at after a detailed analysis of all the relevant policies. Thank you. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Councillor Hensby, questions of clarification?
Thank you. In regards to the development agreement having a 16,000 square foot footprint of the building, are they allowed to have any outdoor display areas and outdoor, like for instance, very seasonal items like a greenhouse operation with soils and manure and plants and stuff that a lot of these grocery stores now do in regards to outdoor seasonal items? So that does not impact the footprint of the building, but it's outdoor storage. Just want to know if that's permitted.
Thank you. So through you, Chair, to the councillor. I'm just looking through the agreement here just so that I can get the specific language for you. Through the review process, we were advised by the applicant that I believe no outdoor storage was proposed. The development agreement, I don't believe, speaks to outdoor storage, but the building must be sited as per the schedule. So the requirements of the MU zone would apply. I don't know if there would be, I don't think, based on my memory of the zone, that there would be any challenges with that, just based on the requirements in the zone. But there's no additional requirements in the development agreement that would restrict that beyond what the land use bylaw would allow.
Thank you.
Any other questions of clarification? Okay, so we'll open the public hearing. So the first step of that is the applicant, who I understand is Will Robinson Mushkat, if I've got that right. Good head nod. The floor is yours. You'll have 10 minutes to present.
Thank you very much. I'll try and keep this brief, as I believe staff have covered off much of what is to be discussed. My name is Will Robinson Mushkat. I'm a senior planner with WSP, and I'm representing our client, MetLink Investments, for this development agreement application for 8990 Highway 7 head of Jador for a new grocery store. Just to touch on the site overview and the context for the application itself. So the site, as discussed by staff, currently occupied by a commercial plaza, a strip mall, which includes an existing grocery store, a Sobeys, as well as other retail businesses. There's a restaurant, home hardware, variety store as well, located within the existing strip mall. And that strip mall was developed, I believe, in the 80s and 90s, to serve the head of Jador community and the surrounding communities within the area. And it is particularly the grocery store component, where the Sobeys is located, is too small to serve the community at this point. And Sobeys is committed to staying in the community as a longstanding tenant of the property owner. And has proposed to develop a new food land via this development agreement. Just to provide some details with regard to the proposed development. So that grocery store that is proposed as part of the DA, as mentioned by staff, exceeds 5,000 square feet, necessitating the need for the development agreement. The approximate square footage or floor area of the grocery store would be 15,780 feet. The development will be located on the eastern portion of the property and separate from that existing strip mall, which would remain. The development would be a standalone building, and the existing Sobeys on the site will relocate to the new building as a Foodland, which is a subsidiary under the Sobeys banner. And there'll be, again, a new parking lot for vehicle spaces for that Foodland, 111 spaces, and new vegetation planted as part of that. This property falls within the MU zone, as noted by staff, and the proposed development meets the minimum maximum requirements of the underlying zone. With regard to the site plan, I don't believe I can use the pointer here, but I'll kind of walk everyone through this particular development. So. The map on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen shows the total site, which is 106 acres in total area. So it's quite a large piece of property, much of which is covered in natural vegetation, which will remain. The square there highlighted on the that inset map on the lower left-hand side shows the area that's addressed via the site plan. You'll notice on the left-hand side of the site plan is the existing strip mall itself, which will remain. And in that hatched area kind of behind it is the outdoor storage area for the existing strip mall and a existing accessory building. There are two access points to the site that will remain and will continue to be utilized both by the existing strip mall and its tenants for parking and for access to and from Highway number 7. And then if you turn or focus your attention on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll notice the proposed new grocery store. It'll be kind of oriented towards the second entrance to the site with 111 parking spaces in front of it. There are also several spaces for accessible parking close to the main store entrance, and the kind of gray areas on the screen there, just kind of in front of the proposed grocery store, would be the existing cart corrals as well. There is vegetation intended for the kind of wrapping around the store, both kind of at the front, kind of in the space between Highway 7 and the parking area. A mixture of deciduous and coniferous trees would be planted along with shrubbery as well, which would also be planted on the side of the building on both the left and right sides of elevation, kind of delineate the separation between the building and what would remain as kind of either landscaped area or branching into, pun intended, into the naturally vegetated area that's intended to remain as well. To the rear of the building would be the location for the refuse and the storage area, screened and separated from existing and neighboring residential areas, and as well the septic field at the rear of the store. It's kind of in that gray hatching there towards the back. Again, being an on-site serviced building. Staff had also provided a kind of a front elevation image, but just to kind of give everyone a sense of what the building would look like. So in the front, you'll note that it's silver metal cladding with some red as well, kind of the Foodland branding and coloring patterns, and kind of some larger bay windows to make that kind of an inviting presence for the store and for the community itself. The right side elevation, so this would be the side elevation that on the previous slide kind of would have been down with some parking beyond it, would be also used for loading purposes. You'll notice the loading bay at the back of the store for deliveries for goods to be sold at the store. Rear elevation as well. which would have a service entrance for employees to be able to access the refuse buildings or refuse structures at the back of the building, and then the left side elevation as well, with the food lane branding and that bay window there as well, and that would kind of face the eastern direction of the site. Again, this is a single-story building. It's intended to kind of fit in with the existing character of the site and the overall the community as well. And with that, I would certainly thank everyone for their attention, and any questions I'd be happy to answer as well.
I think Councillor Hensby has some questions.
Thank you. I will. Did you have a chance to look at some of the Facebook pages in the local area and some of the comments people are saying?
Certainly, yes. I understand that people are, appreciative of the new development that's coming along, and my understanding is that they are looking forward to a new grocery store within their community.
So on that point, how much bigger is this new store going to be compared to the old store?
It's going to be a larger space in terms of what's already than what the existing Sobeys is in terms of its total floor area. With that being said, it's not as large as the existing strip mall in its totality.
Okay. So in regards to that, what inside components of this Foodland plan to propose to have in regards to offerings? Would it be a bakery? Would it be a pharmacy? Will it be,
Yeah, my understanding, it would have, bakery, deli, the essentials that you'd find at a grocery store. I don't believe that this would have a pharmacy component. There is a new Foodland that's opened in the community of Stewiacke, located in the municipality of the county of Colchester, and it would be a very similar, if not exact model to that one. Certainly much larger than what's existing right now on the site for Sobeys.
and some people want to know why it's a Foodland, not Sobeys. My understanding is Sobeys are trying to fit their branding to the demographics of an area. Sobeys are more for large metropolitan populated areas, where Foodlands are for more rural, dispersed community areas. So just want to make sure that distinction is known. Why it's Foodland, not Sobeys?
That's absolutely correct. Foodland is a subsidiary of Sobeys. They carry all the same Sobeys products, compliments label. They offer the same high quality, fruits, vegetables, produce, meats, poultry, but it's a banner for smaller communities, and they're found throughout Atlantic Canada and other parts of Canada as well.
And they also qualify for the scene points that Sobeys offers.
That is my understanding. I'm not a scene member myself, but that is my understanding.
People have been asking those questions.
Those are important questions.
Yes, and there's also any plans for solar panels on the roof?
Not to my knowledge, but it's certainly a possibility. We look at whatever options are available to create green renewable energy.
Thank you very much.
Next up, Councillor Mancini.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Will. I just wanted to actually bridge on what Councillor Hensby just asked about. He asked about solar. Is there any accommodations for electric vehicle charging?
No, I do not believe as part of this development agreement there is. However, there are certainly ample parking spaces, and we welcome vehicles of all types.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. If no one objects, I just have one quick question from here. Do we know what the plan is for the old space? Metlink
Investments will certainly be intending on filling that space with a new tenant to serve the head of Jador community and the surrounding areas. But to date, there's no plan for a new tenant at this point. It will be occupied though.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further questions, it now comes to the public component piece. So I'll look to the list to see who wants to go first, and we have no one signed up on the list. So what I'll do instead is call 3 times. If anyone would like to come and address council on this matter, please come forward. You'll have 5 minutes. State your name and your community. Our clerk will set you up here.
Hey, well, hello. My name is Joseph Kirby. I am a Dartmouth South resident, and I'm hearing that these guys would like to distribute food to our population so we can have food to survive. So I don't know what we're even doing here. It's like, yeah, let them construct it as of right. That's a basic need. We need basic needs. That's why it's a basic need. I cannot for the life of me imagine why we would have to, why it is necessary for us to sit here and have a debate with people about whether or not human beings need food. Of course we need food to survive. So yeah, absolutely. Let them construct this. I cannot imagine anybody who would say no to this, and for what reason. It just boggles the mind to me. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your feedback. Would anyone else like to speak to this matter tonight? Would anybody else like to speak to this? Third and final call. Would anyone else like to speak to this? We've had a motion to close the public hearing. So now the applicant could, if they wish, speak to anything that was raised. Nope. Okay. Jumping down my page here. That all went by so quickly.
Shall I put the motion on the floor, sir?
I think that's where we are. Do we have a moment for staff to address? Is that part of the process at this point? If there's anything, no. Okay. All right, Councillor, what's
I'll put the
What's your
motion on the
wish?
floor, sir, that the Harbour East Marine Drive Community Council one approve the proposed development agreement, which shall be substantially of the same form as set out in attachment A of the staff report dated January 17, 2024. And two, require that the agreement be signed by the property owner within 120 days or any extension thereof granted by council, and request the property owner from the date of final approval by council and any of the bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Later, otherwise this approval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be at an end.
second by Councillor Purdy? Councillor, go ahead, Councillor Hansby.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This has been a long time coming in regards to discussion I originally had with Mr. Medchek and representatives from WSP and Winters and Will picking up the case afterwards. I'm glad to see this is finally here today. The community was very anxious to see a new store, a larger store with larger offerings, and hopefully that will bring more selection of food and services to the area, especially with the pharmacy and the bakery are some features that they currently don't enjoy there now. Now, there's a lot of questions. Why is this meeting being held in Dartmouth and not out in the local area for a public hearing? And I advise some of the constituents that the municipality has evolved in regards to its recording of processes of meetings. And in the past, we've had public hearings out in the area back in the days of the Marine Drive Valley and Canal Community Council, but back then our recordings were only audio. And here we are trying to provide video presentations and documentations of our public hearings now. Halifax City Hall has now been equipped for interaction for people to call in to participate in the public hearing. We do not have that capacity here yet, but it will be eventually here soon enough. And also in regards to, we don't do Facebook Live out of these community meetings and stuff. So this is why the municipality has to document this process this way. And I also alluded to the point that before amalgamation, all public hearings were held at Halifax County Chambers at Dutch Village Road on the other side of Halifax, which is even further away. So we're at least on this side of the harbor now, and we have the technology for people to at least listen into the process, listen to the debate. There was ample opportunity back in August of 23 for people to come out for the public hearing, for the public information session. I was there for that evening. There were 37 people from the public, plus staff, myself, there were about 40 people in total there. Things went very well, very high positive comments. So I just hope that this can move forward. My only hope now is that they can get her going. My understanding that the building material has been pre-ordered, so it's sitting there waiting to go. So now I just got to wait for the construction crew to level the ground out and start putting the foundation in. So hopefully this can be done as quickly as possible for everyone to enjoy. So I'm in support of this application, and I encourage my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Not seeing anyone else wishing to speak to this, I would take a call of the question. Question has been called. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All those opposed? That carries. All right. So our next public hearing for tonight is 10.1.2. This would be the development agreement for 541 Pleasant Street. So the process will be the same. We'll have staff present, then the applicant will have a chance to present. Then we'll go to members of the public. And once all that's done, it'll be up to council to decide. So you can lead off whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of Community Council. My name is Dean McDougall. I'm a Planner 3 with Development Services, and I'll be providing the staff presentation for the public hearing of Plan App 2023-00377. The applicant for this case is Stephen Adams Consulting Services, Inc. The location is 541 Pleasant Street in Dartmouth. The proposal is to build a mixed-use, multi-unit building, and this would be achieved through a development agreement, which is the type of application requested. Site context: the property is located in South Woodside on Pleasant Street and on the corner of Pleasant and Everett Street. It's located directly across the street from the South Woodside School, and it's bounded by 3 streets, Pleasant Street, Everett Street, and Mackenzie Street. It's located on Everett Street, which is one of the gateways into the South Woodside residential community located into the northeast. This is an image of the site today. We're standing on the corner of Pleasant Street and Everett Street. That blue building is the site, and we're looking towards Shearwater. And this is a Google image of the site standing on the corner of Everett and Mackenzie Street, and looking at the site, and Pleasant Street's in the background along with the harbor. Neighborhood context. This neighborhood, South Woodside, could be described as eclectic in terms of its land uses. There are many different types of land uses in around the community: institutional with the school, commercial, industrial, and residential. The residential is predominantly low-density residential, but there are several multi-unit dwellings near the site. Planning policy overview. So in HRM, we have 3 levels of planning policy to help guide development in our communities. And we begin with the regional plan, which is 30,000 feet in the air, looking at all of HRM, and it guides where population growth and the investment of services like transit and piped water should occur. And then we come a little bit closer and we focus in on a very specific geographic area, and this is what's called the community plan. So for this application, the community plan is the Dartmouth Municipal Planning Strategy. And this plan outlines a little bit more detail about what type of uses can happen where. And it also enables some uses that are what we call discretionary, meaning they can be considered, but they require public input and approval by community council. And then the last document we have, the most detailed document we have, is the land use bylaw. This outlines zoning on all properties within that community plan and lists the permitted uses on it and regulations that those uses have to abide by. And if you meet all the criteria in the land use bylaw, then you can go and get a permit. You don't need special approval from council or seek feedback from the public. The development agreement process is outlined on your screen here. We are at the public hearing, which is the blue box. And the decision tonight by community council is appealable. There's a 14-day appeal period. The site is serviced by municipal sewer and water. The zoning on the site right now is the C2, the general business zone. It's designated commercial, and the existing use is a commercial building. It's an operation. And the enabling policy, so the policy that lives in the community plan that allows for this application to be considered, is policy IP5, which is for apartment buildings. So policy IP5 allows council to consider a proposal for an apartment building greater than 3 residential units. And that policy also outlines criteria that council must evaluate in rendering their decision on a request for a development agreement. And those matters are things like height, design, and scale of the building, and is that compatible with the community surrounding it? Landscaping and an amenity space, is what's provided adequate for the future residents of that building? and then the infrastructure capability. So can the infrastructure support the development? This slide shows the site plan of the proposed development. So in orange is the ground floor commercial that's proposed to be facing Pleasant Street. And at the top of the site plan along Mackenzie Street are grade-related townhouse units. What's not quite shown is there is that parking that's off of Everett Street, so that's 6 commercial spaces. There is going to be a building above it, but that's not show. It's outlined, but that detail is not showing on the site plan. But just so you can understand that there is a couple stories above that parking, so it is 1 story open and then a building above. And on Everett, or on Mackenzie Street rather, there are 5 spaces, parking spaces available for the townhouse units, and then also that's the driveway into the underground parking, which is a requirement of a minimum of 50 spaces. Also shown on the site plan, which may not be able to be seen at this scale, there's pathways to be provided along Everett Street and Mackenzie Street. The pathway along Everett Street will abut the existing sidewalk, so it will widen the existing sidewalk, which is beneficial as this sidewalk's used by school children going to the school, as well as citizens accessing transit on Pleasant Street. Also, Mackenzie Street, the pathways provided, it's bringing new pedestrian infrastructure to an area where that's currently lacking. There's no sidewalks on Mackenzie Street, so Mackenzie Street is narrower than your typical standard street. It's a local road, so Mackenzie Street doesn't have a sidewalk, and this is providing some pedestrian infrastructure there. These are 2 elevations of the proposed building that are found in the development agreement. The elevations for the development agreement are really are put in there to control the massing and scale of the building. We provided some flexibility in terms of building materials and colors to the applicant to provide flexibility at permitting to figure out those details. We have a requirement that the ground floor be of a masonry type material, and we do require that there be a 3-color scheme provided to the remaining materials. We also have a list of prohibited materials, but the objective here is to, again, provide flexibility to try and reduce potential costs at building. We find that putting them into a specific requirement for use materials and colors, if at permitting those materials are in high demand and low quantity, then it's more expensive or may delay construction. And if it's more expensive, those costs tend to trickle down to rents. So we try to make it as flexible as possible while ensuring articulation is provided and massing is controlled. And as you can see, in terms of the massing, it's 5 stories, which should be focused towards Pleasant Street, and then it would transition down to 3 stories as you get to Mackenzie Street. And those would be where the townhouse units are located. And based on the massing controls placed in the agreement, there's a potential unit yield of 74 residential units. For public feedback, the level of engagement completed was consultation. This was achieved through our HRM website, a mail-out notification, online survey, and a public open house. Some statistics on that engagement: 725 notifications were mailed out to the South Woodside community. 16 survey responses were received. 859 individuals viewed the webpage, and 13 people attended the open house. So as you can see by the stats, this information was out there. A lot of eyes were on the application, but we had a relatively low response rate. Of the feedback provided, traffic and access concerns was probably the largest one. We also heard that it provides much needed apartment units in the residential area, the need for amenity space, and most respondents believed that the building fits the neighborhood and site, while some did feel it was too big. So elements of the development agreement, a quick summary: it allows for a 5-story mixed-use multi-unit building. There's controls placed on the height, siting, and massing, and some controls on the exterior design of the building. Commercial uses are permitted on the ground floor, and that would be uses that are permitted in the existing zone today, the C2 zone. There is a residential unit mix requirement. 20% of the units are required to be 2 or more bedrooms. We have requirements that indoor and outdoor amenity space be provided. There are controls on the site access, location, and requirements for vehicular parking. Landscaping and lighting controls are also placed in the agreement, and requirement for lot grading and erosion and sediment control plans to be provided at permitting. In terms of non-substantive amendments, which are changes to the agreement which can be made without a formal public hearing like we're having tonight, and these can be made by the development officer or community council. And the proposed non-substantive amendments are changes to the parking requirements, changes to the architectural requirements, so just building materials and some of the articulation requirements, but not the massing and height. Those are locked in. And then extension to the dates of commencement and completion. So with that, staff recommend that Harbour East Marine Drive Community Council approve the proposed development agreement as attached to the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions of clarification? Councillor Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dean, thanks for the presentation as always. Well done. It's a follow-up from the previous presentation. And where are we, outside the center plan area with development agreements requiring things like Councillor Hensey asked in the previous presentation, solar, and I asked about EV charging stations, especially in apartment buildings. Where are we with that, being able to give that direction?
Through you, Chair, to the councillor, we're close. The regional plan and is definitely providing some requirements about providing those things in developments, as well as suburban plan, I assume, will also put those requirements in. As we update our plans, we bring them to current conditions, right? And how we want to see our community build in the future, being more environmentally friendly and thinking about the less cars on the road. And so we can plan accordingly for that. This Dartmouth plan was written in the 1970s. Unfortunately, it doesn't provide that requirement now, but you should see those things come up in updates to the regional plan as well as the suburban plan.
Good. I look forward to that day we can require those items. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Purdy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the presentation. So my question is about the minimum requirement of bedrooms being 20% of the units. And I'm wondering, where does that requirement come from? And like, it's close proximity to a school. I think that requirement should be a little higher, I guess, for families with young kids with the school right there. So I'm just wondering about that requirement. Where does it come from? Why is it a minimum of only 20%?
Sure. Through you, Councillor, through you, Chair, to the councillor. There's no real set standard on that unit mix requirement. It is something that it's good planning practice to provide to ensure that alternative bedrooms or units are available to different family sizes. Using that 20%, that was largely guided by the center plan and current updated planning strategies that we have that looked into these details. That's largely what drove this recommendation is 20% is the center plan, which is located just across the street. And typically, like I just said, we tend to lean on those updated planning strategies because they get into details about what kind of standards should be upgraded when we have these new planning strategies.
So just, can I ask a follow-up? Okay, so in the center plan, then the minimum requirement is 20% of units in all new developments have to have 2 bedrooms?
Through you, Chair, to the councillor, I'm not aware of the specifics of the requirement.
Okay.
But it's close to that for sure. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask one from here. I meant to do this at the beginning just to acknowledge this isn't Councillor Kent's district. She's not able to be here tonight for happy reasons. She has a grandbaby arriving, if not already here. That all set in motion today. Nature doesn't keep to our calendar, so she's not able to attend tonight, but she was comfortable with this going forward. She did ask me to ask about the parking traffic piece, about the traffic coming out on to, I think it's Everett and Mackenzie, right, from both those streets. What sort of analysis was done around the traffic piece, and why not put it off Pleasant?
Absolutely. So the large reason the traffic is required to go onto Mackenzie, which is the street, the dead end street that's to this north of the site, is with bylaw S300, which is our streets bylaw, which requires that driveways be located on the street with the lowest volume of traffic. In addition to that, it's good engineering practice to minimize conflict with vehicles exiting a site, especially when we have high-level traffic roads like Pleasant Street. So it's safer to put the people leaving the site onto the lower traffic site, then enter in through the traffic lights onto Pleasant. It reduces conflict and potential for collisions. And then with Everett Street, the distances between the intersection with Pleasant and then Mackenzie, there are standards about how close a driveway can be. And this met the standards for secondary access, but not primary. So that's largely why there's only 6 commercial spaces there. And the majority of the traffic is to go on to Mackenzie, and all 3 roads can handle the traffic, especially with the lights at Pleasant and Mackenzie. Or Everett, sorry, Pleasant and Everett.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further questions, we'll go next. We'll open the public hearing. So we'll open the public hearing, and the applicant can now come forward. That would be Mr. Tom Amoldi with Teal Architects. You'll have 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Although you know all the drill of this by now.
Yes. I might need your help here. Just start here. And the view.
That's fine.
That's what I mean. Here we go. This is.
I think if we close that one.
Yeah. There we go. Thank you. And I'll just make sure I know how to control this before I start. Yeah, there we go. So, Mr. Chair and councillors, thank you for having us here to explain a little bit more about this development. I think the planner has described this in great detail and very well. And I guess my only sort of addition to that is that we can go from what we have here on the screen right now to this. So if I can use my cursor here, and I don't think I can, but I will just explain to you the things that are apparent on this image. So we do have the 5-story development on the Pleasant Street side. You can just begin to see at the left-hand side how it transitions down to Mackenzie Street. I do have, from a previous public information meeting, preliminary views on the Pleasant Street side. We enhance the landscape on the front. We can, in collaboration with HRM, put some seating there, a properly designed bus stop there. The development is in really good public transport situation where the buses are there. It's in walking distances, Dean said, to the ferry. And that, as you can see on the bottom level, we have a series of commercial suites. So our vision here is that this will bring cafes, food stores, potential medical services like physiotherapists, fitness rooms, whatever, to the community, which is not there yet. The other thing that we want to emphasize is that the number of bedrooms that you mentioned, I just took a quick look at the plan, which I don't have here, is we have probably 2-to-1 ratio of 2-bedroom units to 1-bedroom units. So it's well beyond the 20%. I can send you the exact numbers later if you wish. So the community development version of this thing is really important. We have an enhanced, and I can show you on the site plan, I think better than I can here. Oh, by the way, I was reminded by Mr. Adams to mention that he did send you a letter, and that letter contains much of what I'm saying here. Okay, so at the back on Mackenzie Street, you have 4 townhouses. The 4 townhouses are scaled at the same scale, really, as the surrounding houses across the street and down the street. On the left-hand side, you see the commercial parking lot, which has got the 2 stories over it that was already mentioned. On the right-hand side, what wasn't quite clear is that there are some visitor spaces there for the townhouse guests. If people come to the townhouse, they can visit there. You'll see a stair behind the townhouses which goes down to the parking lot. Townhouse owners or residents can come up from the parking lot, so their cars could be underneath. There's been considerable attention paid to how garbage is picked up. So the garbage truck would come in from Mackenzie Street, back in, pick up the garbage, go out again. Commercial deliveries would come in from Everett Street, but would continue on to exit onto Mackenzie Street. And in response to an earlier question, we did try the idea of exiting everything out onto Pleasant Street. But as was mentioned, the traffic engineering people at HRM objected to that. So this is why we have what we have now. On the upper levels, which I don't have here now, there are community rooms. One of them is a fitness room and a gym. And one of them is a collective room for people to gather and meet. And as I mentioned earlier, the orange area here could become one of several kinds of stores. I do have a couple of, and this is the underground parking area. They're at the moment showing 58 cars down here in response to the EV charging question, which I'm sure is coming. Most of our clients actually put in something in the order of 3 to 6 EV chargers. They would be card swiped by people who use them. This has not been discussed yet in this project, but that's the trend that we see in all of these rental apartment buildings. So surface parking is not EV charging, but underground is. And as I say, I can't commit to that, but that's what the trend is. This is an earlier version, like I mentioned, and then this is an earlier version that was shown at the public information meeting of the edge at Mackenzie Street. We have changed this, as you can tell from the site plan. This circular driveway has been replaced by guest parking for the townhouses. And on the left here, going to the very left, there's a substantial amount of area there for perhaps a community playground and landscaping that the community and the neighbors could use. This is again the front of the building on Pleasant Street. The underground parking that you see there. And I wish I could point to things with my cursor, but I can't. But you can just see there the opening for the underground parking just in the middle of the screen there. And there are several stories over the top of that, like it was explained before. And then the view of the townhouses with 1 story over onto Everett Street, total of 3 stories. I guess that's all I have. Questions?
Thank you. Any questions from members of council? Okay. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
The next step is members of the public will have a chance to speak to this. And we do have one name signed up on the list. That would be Mr. Sean Clark. You'll have 5 minutes. Just state your name and community for the record when you're ready.
Hello, I'm Sean Clark. I live in Dartmouth South. I'll be quite frank, my wife heard about this and signed me up, and not wanting to sleep on a couch tonight, I'm here. Great walk tonight. So we all know housing is needed and important in our community and Nova Scotia in general today. But with the planned Dartmouth General redevelopment, it's going to be the largest hospital east of Montreal. We're going to need people who work there to want to be near there. It's hard to find healthcare workers as it is. Being able to show that there is living space in the community will be a great way to get them in there. So the more housing we have available, the better. And housing is important. So hopefully I didn't need my 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Short and sweet. So that's the end of our sign-up list. So now I'll call 3 times for anyone who's in attendance. Yes, come forward, Mr. Kirby.
Sorry about this again.
Just your name and community for the record, please.
Sure. So Joseph Kirby, resident of Dartmouth South. Yeah, we are in a housing crisis, which means that we are in a housing shortage. What that means is that the demand for housing cannot keep up with the supply of housing, or I guess it's the other way around. The supply of housing cannot keep up with the demand for housing because demand is going up, 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 up as our population goes up, 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 and up. And the supply is stagnating. And the reason why the supply is stagnating is because we have zoning ordinances that make it so developments that allow people to provide housing to our population, specifically at least 74 people need housing according to the demand for this development, which is it said on the website, I believe 74 units of housing. So that is something that we need critically. And the idea that we can just put this quasi-temporary blockade on things until we decide, well, let's just have a vote on whether or not you get to access your basic needs or not, is not something that I'm okay with. And I think that it is a moral imperative that you all not just allow this development to go through, not just say yes to this new development, but that in the future, you need to permit all dwelling options as of right. Basic needs need to be provided as of right so we can efficiently access our basic needs and be allowed to access our basic needs. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this tonight? Yes, come forward. Just your name and community for the record, please.
Hi, Cassandra Manuel, South Woodside. I actually live on Mackenzie Street. So just kind of a question, I don't know if it's appropriate for this time in the part, but or decision making, but just curious around traffic flow. Has anything been considered around, because Mackenzie's a dead end street, and I'm just seeing the traffic mainly coming onto that street. Is there any anticipation that that will become a non-dead end street? Like, will the other side of it be opened up? And how, or is that a possibility, or has that been considered as a possibility, I guess is a better way to ask that.
So the way this process works is you can ask your questions.
Perfect.
And then I saw Councillor Mancini writing notes as you were talking.
Okay.
And then one of us up here, we can ask staff once they come back up. It's not a back and forth during the public
Beautiful.
piece. So if you have any questions like that, you can put them all out and someone here will probably pick them up.
Yeah, okay, and that's perfect. Mainly just living on that street, it is quite narrow. So when I heard about the presentation just around commercial delivery trucks plus the garbage disposals, et cetera, I just concerned that there may be, especially at 8 a.m. when we're all leaving to go to work, some potential traffic on that small short end road. So I'm wondering if opening it up is a consideration to kind of ensure that traffic flow so that 70 plus individuals that perhaps are leaving in the morning, plus that school right there, a lot of parent drop-offs actually happen in my driveway because a lot of parents come and turn around and then stop in the middle of the street to let their kid out and run across the road. So it's just those types of considerations that if we're seeing more of the traffic flow, and I understand why it's happening not on Pleasant Street and Mackenzie, but there's those other considerations happening for those of us that live on the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this tonight? Anyone else wishing to speak to this one tonight? Third and final call. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. So the developer would now have a chance to respond to anything that was said in the public hearing if they wish.
I only have to say that everything that was said, we support in terms of the need for housing. And the need for housing that is, affordable rents and energy efficient. And we have included all of those considerations into this project.
Thank you. And now staff can respond to anything that was said. Dean's coming forward. Okay.
Thank you. I can just quickly clarify, there's no plan to extend Mackenzie Street as it is. It ends into private property, and HRM has no ability to extend it, and I don't think the requirement for traffic flows would be necessary for this development to extend it or to go down that avenue. In regards to the traffic analysis, so just a quick summary of what the traffic engineer provided in the report. During peak hours, which are 7 to 9 a.m., a total of approximately 42 cars are expected to be exiting and entering the site, or largely exiting the site in the AM, and then entering 36 cars entering in the PM peak. Not everyone usually leaves their house at the same time, so that it will be staggered. And the traffic engineer identified that it equals to about 1 or 2 cars. Let me just read my notes here so I don't incorrectly speak, but a car added to this street every 1 to 2 minutes during that time. And then there's no conflict with the evening. The bell schedule, I think, is 2:45. But at 8:30 bell, there will be traffic, and it's acknowledged in the report. However, the traffic consultant said that it's a minor time frame. It's, I think, about 15 to 20 minutes usually that congestion will happen. But even with that congestion, there's still capacity on the street to provide safe vehicular movement. So I do acknowledge more traffic will be on the street, but it will be operating safely according to the traffic consultant.
Thank you. So any questions of clarification for staff or members of council? Seeing none, okay. Council, what is your wish? Councillor Mancini?
On behalf of Councillor Kent, I'll put the motion on the floor that the Harbour East Marine Drive Community Council 1 approve the proposed development agreement, which shall be substantially of the same form as set out in attachment A of the staff report dated January 31st, 2024. And 2, require the development agreement be signed by the property owner with 120 days or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of the final approval by council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, which is later. Otherwise, the approval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be at end. So moved.
A second by Councillor Purdy. Councillor?
Hey, I think pretty straightforward, Mr. Chair. I'm glad the architect is hopefully can persuade the applicant to put some EV chargers in the buildings. Would be fabulous. I understand the residents' concern about the traffic, especially with their school. I know that school very well. It's 7 days a week pickleball in that school. So I know that area well, and I think the community will receive a building like this quite favorably. So I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. If no one objects, I'll just say a few words from here. I'm happy to support this development. It's the kind of development that we want in the right sort of locations on a major street that has excellent transit access. Is one of our kind of core corridor routes. It's a relatively modest mid-rise type development. We're dealing with outside the center plan area. We haven't done that suburban plan yet. But if the suburban plan mirrors what we're trying to do with the center plan, this is the kind of location where we would have mid-rise development as of right. We've approved similar things out on Cole Harbour Road, another area key corridor with transit access. So this ticks all those good planning boxes in terms of, a modest increase in density in the right sort of spot. So I'm happy to support it. I do acknowledge that Mackenzie Street will have a few more cars than it used to. You're never able to have zero impact, but our professional staff have looked at it and said, yeah, it'll be manageable, but it is. I will acknowledge that is the case. So, question has been called. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. So, moving along to our next item, correspondence, petitions, and delegations. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Correspondence was received from the clerk's office for items 10.1.1, 10.1.2, and 14.1.1. Those pieces of correspondence have been circulated to all members of Community Council. The clerk's office has received no petitions through us.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Does anyone on council have any petitions tonight? Seeing none. Presentations, we deferred that item till May. So public participation. This is your chance to speak to us on any matter that wasn't already covered in the public hearings. You'd have 5 minutes. So would anyone like to address council tonight? Please come forward. Same time period, you get 5 minutes, and state your name and community for the record.
Yes, hi, Paul Clerk. I'm in District 5, Dartmouth South. I'm a little puzzled. What happened to the proposal for the post office building? Didn't come up. Did it pass over me? Was I dozy?
It's on for first reading coming up after public participation. So if you stick around, it'll come up in our agenda to come.
Oh, okay, thank you. The other item I wanted to bring up was Southern Pond. The totem pole there, I like what's happening to it. It was put up in 1967, and an indigenous adage about totem poles is from the earth it came, and to the earth it will return. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to address council tonight? Anybody else wish to speak to us tonight? Third and final call. All right. Thank you, folks. Next up, we have information items brought forward. We have none, so which brings us to reports. So the first item would be the Gateway Meat Market supplementary report.
That's me.
So that would be you, Councillor Purdy.
Yes, thank you. So this is take 2 for Gateway. So I move that Harbour East Marine Drive Community Council give notice of motion to consider the proposed development agreement as set out in attachment A of the March 19th, 2024 supplementary report to allow an expansion to an existing commercial building at 667 Highway 7 Westfall and schedule a public hearing.
Seconded.
Second by Councillor Hensby. Councillor Purdy.
Thank you. So we have approved this last month, but there was a supplemental needed. There was a clarification that was missed. So all this does is just clarify the setback in the front and the side of the building. So there's no changes to the proposal, just this small addition to the DA to include those setbacks. And if this is approved tonight, it will go on to the public hearing next month.
Thank you, Councillor.
Save it for next month.
Okay, question?
Yep.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? So that carries. Our next one, which would be the post office redevelopment in downtown Dartmouth, 14.2.1. Would someone put it on for me? Thank you.
I'll put it on for you, Mr. Chair. Let's see, that the Harbour East Marine Drive Community Council give notice of motion to consider the proposed development agreement as set out in attachment A of the staff report dated February 23rd, 2024, to enable the construction of a 90-meter mixed-use addition to the registered heritage property located at 53 Queen Street and schedule a public hearing. So moved.
Second by Councillor Hensby. Councillor Mancini.
It's first reading, more discussion the next time it comes around, possibly.
If I may ask,
Sure.
Mr. Clerk, with these two items, would we anticipate that both of them would come to our next meeting in May?
Pending discussion with the staff, that would certainly be my understanding.
Okay, thank you. Question has been called. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? That carries. So 2 more hearings next month. Okay, next we have motions. There are none. We have no in-camera items. We have no added items. Any notices of motion tonight, colleagues? Saying none. The date of our next meeting, which will likely include those public hearings, will be May 2nd. So I take a motion to adjourn. Councillor Purdy moves. We are adjourned.